I think we can start. It is a great pleasure for me to have here Alessia Turini, who is working in the marketing department at Axa insurance company, and she's the head of customer and innovation management. She will present you very briefly what Axa is about, and then she will discuss more in detail what is innovation in this particular context. Please exploit her knowledge, exploit her skills. You can ask her questions, you can comment, you can disagree with her if you're not convinced of what
Mildly.
she's saying. and the floor is yours. We have, well, in total 1 hour and a half, but we can just make it very interactive.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. So as Ms. Corrocher said, I'm Alessia Turini. I work in the Customer Management and Innovation Department in Axa. How many of yours know what is Axa and what it's about? So, yeah, in fact, in Italy, the market share of Axa is not so quite spread over, and the knowledge about our company is not that big. In fact, so what I will take you through today is the concept of innovation and innovation as an experience, especially in Axa Group, which is a huge reality. In fact, I don't know whether how many of yours know that Axa is present in 56 countries in the world. It's the first insurance company in the world for market capitalization. So we're talking about a reality which is very, very big, actually. More than 80 million customers, more than 200,000 employees all over the world. So we're developing a lot over the last years. We're a very, let's say, ambitious company. We want to develop even more through both acquisition and organic growth. So these are the plans of the company for the next future. Maybe some of yours have already heard about the Ambition 2012, which was declared by Henri de Castres, which is the president of Axa Insurance Company. The ambition is to become the preferred insurance company within 2012 for all the stakeholders playing around Axa. So it means employees, customers, and distributors. Okay, so what about us today? I won't take so much time for the presentation of today, just talking about the Axa Italy, for example, so just quick numbers about the market share. An insurance company typically operates in a couple of fields, which is mainly P&C, means property and casualty. It means most of all motor TPL, so the normal traditional motor insurance. When we have in Italy a market share of 4%, and we are ranked number 7 among the insurance company and Italian players. While in the life market, where for life we mean all traditional products, life against risk, so the protection against, for example, death, accidents, or even savings and financial products. And here, in this case, we have a slightly higher percentage of market share, 5.8, but still the ranking is almost the 7th. So as you can see, we are a very internationally spread over company, still in Italy quite a big, slightly smaller, I must say. What are our value and the core attitudes towards our clients? We have recently developed and launched last year a new positioning on the market, which is redefining standards. Some of you may have heard already about this. And the core principles of this new positioning are 3 leverages, which is we want to be available, reliable, and attentive. So everything, especially around the marketing areas, is going to be the proof and the way we transmit and convey to the customers these 3 core attitudes. So we'll notice that also the innovation activities, we'll have these principles as a funding basis for our activity. So everything for us must be developed around these 3 pillars. So everything we're looking for in terms of product development, new researches, new services we're going to provide, they must be, let's say, consistent with the 3 pillars of our positioning. So we're not searching for everything in the world, let's say, but just searching for innovations and every kind of activity that can help us make these 3 pillars more concrete to the customers and to the distributors. Okay, so let us enter in the proper field of innovation now. Sorry. Okay. What I've tried to do in this presentation is just designing the principles of innovation as we have studied them, collecting information from the literature available and from the experiences that Axa is living and spreading throughout the group, putting them together, both with some extra industries and other competitors in the same industries, and compare them with the experiences that we are living in the group. So I will take you through these 4 principles, and of course, please share the experiences and the views you have regarding these principles together. We're trying to exploit, just recently in Axa, this sort of house of innovation. Why do we call it house? Because on the top of everything comes a fundamental pillar, which is leveraging employees and the culture of innovation. But we go nowhere if we don't exploit a sound basis. The sound basis must be constituted and represented by processes, tools, and governance. So this means for us that innovation is not a sort of a free creativity, because we would go nowhere if it would be like that. So we need to have it strongly processed, assessed, and very well thought about, taken care by the company and the organization throughout a very well-designed process. We don't believe in just putting there together some ideas and be as most creative as we can. So these are the 2 pillars, a very sound pillar in terms of processes and tools, and everything must support and be supported by culture and employees. This is to support the other 2 walls of the house of innovation. So the purpose is to get the right ideas, but not just for the sake of it, but just to transmit them and turn them into concepts which are going to become the products for us. Okay. Any question about this? Yeah.
One small question, because the way in which you presented the innovation strategy, let's say, even from a very theoretical perspective, seems to me more, let's say, inclined to be focused on product innovation, so the development of new products, the targeting of new markets, instead of improving efficiency and process innovation from a cost perspective.
Well, yeah. I must say that, probably when we talk about innovation in our company, we mostly think about how to better serve the customer. So this has, of course, a more easy approach in terms of the most recurrent thoughts, which is how can I better serve them in terms of new products or needs that haven't been tackled properly so far. In many cases, we tend also to optimize the services. Of course, as you will see, the 2 perspectives are quite different, because we will see it in an example regarding Axa France. We can have small, let's say, improvements in the current daily life, both of employees and, for example, customers as well. And this is something which could be becoming natural also for the employees to submit these kind of ideas. So in this case, they would tend to submit more ideas regarding something they have experienced, either in their normal life as employees or in the life of the customer, in the case that they have a contact with them. In other cases, I would say that the implementation of a huge revision of processes, for example, is something that typically comes from the observation of the experience of the customer with the employees and the agents, but of course is much more led, let's say, by the strategic departments. So we have them both, and you will see some examples. But of course, we're going to search both for incremental and disruptive innovation, even if a disruptive innovation in the insurance sector. We will discuss about this to see what you consider an innovation at all in insurance field. It tends to be, in fact, concerning more the services rather than the products. But we will see some examples. So I would say, to recap, we tackle most of them, both of them, sorry. But probably in the most spread sense of it, the employee would tend to submit something which is a slightly improvement in the contact with the customer typically, and related therefore mostly to the product rather than to the process itself for the company. Okay, so let us start and let us try to follow these 4 pillars of the house. Any questions about this? Do you have any doubts, any comments, something that is slightly not convincing you completely, or shall we go on? Okay. Okay, so let us start from a quotation by Steve Jobs, which I suppose you know better than you know Axa, I guess. It takes a little, it seems. Okay. So what does he say? That, for example, if he had to say that IBM was investing less money than Apple did, he would be wrong. So what did he say? He was the main factor of success for his development of innovation. Of course, people, which is a matter of hiring the proper people, fostering their culture, their way of belonging and acting into the company, leading them, what you want to get from them. So this is the principle, and you will observe throughout all the presentation, I hope, that it's everything about the culture and how you want to involve the employees in the processes. So you need processes and tools, but you don't go anywhere if you don't have the people properly involved. People means culture, but also engagement, also from the top management. So, of course, it's everything about people. And why is it like that? There was a survey recently, let's say 2006, carried out by IBM interviewing the CEOs of 13 most innovative companies in the world. What they have claimed is that the major source of innovation in their company is to be attributed to employees. So it's really important to foster their participation to the innovative environment, because they tend to be the widest source of innovation. We have recently carried out the same survey in Axa Group. And the result was, I'm afraid, slightly worse, because throughout the top management that we have interviewed, just 16% of them claimed that employees were the main source of innovations. I'm afraid about this. And 35% claim that, in fact, innovation is mostly coming from the top management. This is a quite recurrent, let's say, weakness that we suffer in Axa Group. But this is also because we have a very clever top management, I must say. And this is very lucky for us. But we have a recent experience while tackling, for example, the speed of launching a new products on the market. You have seen that we have 56 countries in our company, in our group. And what is our weakest point is that all of us, we tend to reinvent the wheel every time. So in Axa Group, innovation is both a matter of designing new things, optimizing the approaches, but also spreading the richness that we produce throughout the company. Because this is a major issue, as you can see, in a group so spread over and so big as we are. So what did happen? We have this problem about launching products with a sort of time and timeliness to market as speed as we can, especially in the life and saving area. So the issue was that they have found out a sort of a very advanced financial engineering system ruling the market of variable annuities. How many of you know about the variable annuities? These are life and saving products that releases money throughout your own life as soon as you stop putting money into rendita, let's say, which is not very recurrent in Italy, but is very spread over in US. So US was the first market to launch and to be really greedy in having this kind of products. We spent 10 years in replicating this product all over the group. And this was a mess for the head of the company, of course, and we spent a lot of money to try to replicate it throughout the companies. So what did they do? I mean, still centrally speaking, the top management of the group, Axa Group in France. They put together marketing group, still there, the technical people in life and saving department, the distribution people, still at Axa Group, and they put together a very basic, let's say, scheme of this product to be spread over the countries. They thought that this could be the right way, let's say, to go to the market in a faster way. But they failed because they didn't test the concept of the product enough, and the commitment by the countries, the single entities, they weren't on board enough because they just felt the pressure coming on top. So you can see these tensions when you're talking about innovation from big groups managing a lot of entities throughout the world. So we have to manage and deal with this sort of complexities. So innovation can come from everywhere, but it's an issue if you don't try to reuse it properly. And so we don't exploit employees enough. We don't exploit, for example, also the commitment from the bottom-up level, let's say. And this Axa One product was, in fact, the living example of, let's say, a proper approach to a faster time to market, but on wrong principles, let's say. Okay. So let us go ahead now that we have understood that employees' involvement is really basic and, let's say, we cannot do without them. So what can we say about this regarding employees and culture? That we need to have trained people, engaged people, champions of innovation throughout the company. They have to develop, they have to qualify and diffuse, share and reuse. So these are all the functions of the people involved in the innovation throughout the companies. We have to incentivize them and to recognize the idea submission coming from them. So as I mentioned before, I would like to have with you some observation regarding possibly other industries and also some competitors, even if in this case AIG, I must say that it's not the best example, I'm afraid, but let us still take it just for the sake of innovation observation, let's say. So Hewlett-Packard, they set up a program which is Innovation Program Office, and they set up this office where they had these champions of innovation. What do you think are champions of innovation? What should their function be, in your opinion? Can somebody try to help me answering this?
I guess that at this point it's more about empowering common employees, let's say, and diffusing the idea.
But how many people? So yeah. So should it be all of them or just some of them?
No, a couple of people who dedicate most of time to this activity.
Okay.
I don't know numbers and proportions on.
Okay.
You know, one every department, one every 100. I don't know.
Okay. And with what kind of activities, in your opinion?
Well, most I guess it's about bridging between functions, between introducing, holding kind of conferences, perhaps teaching what other companies have achieved, trying to set up projects. It's more about projects, perhaps.
Okay, so I can buy this definitely, and we will see it implemented in Axa France example. What was the idea behind the Hewlett-Packard experience? Namely, it was about, let's say, having sort of business angels for new ideas coming from all the departments. So it means that everybody was, of course, allowed to submit any kind of ideas, new ideas. But since they were looking, as all the companies are looking for profit coming from the ideas, Of course, the vast majority of the employees of a company don't have any familiarity with developing business cases around the ideas. So we're not searching for the smart idea just for the sake of it. We're searching for the idea which is going to produce more money, which has a sort of willingness to pay. So the champions in Hewlett Packard examples were meant to help all the normal employees, let's say, who are not familiar with the numbers and developing business cases, in building around the basic idea the potential of market and submitting to the further levels ideas enriched with numbers projections. So the champions can enable, let's say, an idea to be fostered and to be pushed along the value chain, let's say, with a sustainable amount of money that he could be, that this idea could bring to the company, of course. And this is really basic, very important for fostering and pursuing innovation, because innovation must, in the end, produce money for the company. Okay, what about AIG and their fostering of culture about innovation? Their example is really famous because they rewarded the employees who submitted the ideas. So it means incentivizing and acknowledging, rewarding people who submitted the ideas. Of course, at the end of the evaluation of the idea, so I wouldn't give you money if your idea wouldn't produce any money, because I'm not a ONG, let's say, entity. But your value, the value of your thoughts is so valuable for me as a company that I would give you some money back, because I recognize that you're really valuable for me. So there's a lot of debate around really giving money to the people, because as many of you may have understood or studied so far, that money is not always the proper leverage with the people. So it's a terms of it's something regarding also motivation and engagement, but they decided to go for the money, let's say, leverage.
Were these individual projects? Because I think this might be also a problem in giving incentives to people in terms of money.
Yeah, well, actually the literature doesn't explain this explicitly, so I wouldn't be able now, so I should go and search for more details. But actually, as far as we experience, for example, normally the ideas are mostly fostered and developed in small groups of people thinking together. So I tend to say that typically it would be a reward to a group of people. But in fact, we could search for more details about their experience in AAG, in fact. What about Google? Do you know that Google is among, or I would say among the top 3 innovative company in the, do you know Business Week ranking? They publish once a year the ranking of most innovative companies. Guess what? No insurance company in the first 50. And this is an ambition also for us. So the stake is still a good one, because no insurance company is there. And so this means that still some efforts can be done also from us to be there. In fact, the first financial group which is there is HSBC. So we should tackle their experience, in fact, and try to understand how they managed to be there and why we didn't manage. Despite this, for example, AXA Insurance is the first recognized and most valuable brand among the insurance companies. So it's still a sort of mystery for us. How can we have such a valuable brand? It means money behind it. It's an asset, but we are not innovative enough. So there's a sort of this gap that we still have to discover the reasons why.
With the way in which Business Week defines it.
Probably. Well, somebody says that it's also marketing activities as well to be part of the Business Week ranking. I tend to think that it's not just like that. So, but it's also a weighing of about profitability and so on. So it matches a lot of criteria, but we're still not there. So this is still an open defy, let's say. Okay, so let us take a look about how AXA as a group manages the rewarding and involvement engagement of the employees. I would like to take you through a couple of examples. One is the Employees Innovation Journey and the other is the Innovation Award. I don't know if it's really clear, this path, or if you can read it through, but I will take you through just commenting it quite quickly. This kind of chart is quite recurrent in Axa, because we tend to represent all the journeys of our stakeholders along their most significant experiences in their life with the company. So we have, for example, the distributor journey, so the way it comes in contact with the company. We have the customer journey, representing, for example, all the touching points that he lives with the company, from when he searches for information to when he buys it, to buy a product, when he has a claim, and he goes and searches for other alternatives. Maybe he leaves the company, or he decides to renew the product and stay with us. The same experience, we have tried to design this in the employees' innovation journey. So this means that at Axa Group, they have tried to understand which are the experiences that every employee should be living to be part of an innovation journey, and how the top management should be, let's say, acting to ease this path around through the innovation journey. So from the very beginning, an employee should know that innovation is important for his company. So the top management should ask themselves, how do I create awareness about the importance of the innovation? So is it clear for all the employees' bases that innovation is really important for our company? And throughout this journey, I understand from the CEO that the strategy encompasses innovation leverages. And also that I have a role and I can submit new ideas. I have to be trained about this. My manager should be supporting me in the possibility and the chances of submitting ideas. I should have the chances of being involved in the innovative projects. I should be rewarded, recognized, and especially if I'm a talent, let's say, in innovation behaviors and experiences, the top management should be able to retain the innovators. So you will have this, in this path, two ways of using this sort of, let's say, open questionnaire. So what an employee should receive from the company, and the questions that the top management should be tackling in asking themselves if they are really covering all the aspects that are really fundamental to properly engage their people in the company. So the employees should receive these kind of experiences, and the top management should ask themselves, am I really exploiting all the leverages to be able to foster the culture of innovation? As you can imagine, actually Axa as a group has launched a formal innovation department just a couple of years ago at group level, let's say, and they're spreading this innovation community throughout all the entities. We have a community about 30 people of innovators throughout the world. We're convening at least once a year. Next week, I'm afraid this lesson was scheduled just 1 week in advance regarding this meeting of the community. Otherwise, I would have maybe some other experiences to share with you, but nevertheless. Okay. And we just have some, let's say, meetings with conference call once a month to share experiences. Because as I mentioned before, the reuse is really, let's say, the most valuable thing that we can share throughout the companies. Okay, so this is something that, for example, Innovation Group in Axa France help us as entities with this monitoring tool to observe all the experiences that we really put in place. So this is a tool that they provide us, questions to be answered locally. Another tool, Innovation Awards. So this was launched 1 year ago, and it was a contest that aimed at promoting innovation at all levels of the group. So all the entities participated to this Innovation Awards. There were 3 levels, so the winners of the local entities could participate to the higher level of the contest at regional level. We as Italy belong to the MEDLA region, so Mediterranean and Latin America, together with Mexico. Other countries belonging to the same region are Turkey, Greece, Morocco, Lebanon, and so on. So the winners of the contest at local level would compete at the higher level, for example, with the MEDLA region in this case, and the winner for MEDLA region would compete at group level for the innovations. This is meant to identify innovative projects, to support business, and to go beyond products. We will see why. And to share these innovations and these projects around the whole group. The first year of this experience was last year. There were submitted 634 innovations throughout 33 entities. The submission could work both because employees would like to make some of their, let's say, attempts of innovation more known, also at the company level, or because their managers had the intention of promoting some of the work of their employees at higher levels, let's say. So it could work both directions. More than 4,000 employees involved.
Can I ask you two questions?
Yeah.
Because I think this is a very interesting way in which companies can really promote innovation from the employee side. The first one was top-down and bottom-up can be used both, but of course the principles behind them are very different. And I guess that the outcomes in terms of awards or in terms of performances in promoting innovation can be very different across these two principles. So I don't know if you have some evidence of what worked best in a way.
Yeah.
And the second question had to do with the country-specific processes.
Yeah.
Was there any evidence that, I don't know, out of 600 innovation or more, they were coming most from some countries?
Well, it really, of course, depended on the size of the countries. Even if, for example, in the Medlar region, we submitted, in Italy, we submitted 47 projects, and we were the most submitting entity, let's say. And this comes also with the kind of animation that we did as an innovative team in Italy rather than in other countries. So it has to do, of course, with the commitment of the top management in sponsoring this kind of events. So as I mentioned before, engagement also from the top level is essential to make the perception of the innovation culture being a value and a pillar for the strategy of the company. So if the top management doesn't believe in it, you can go nowhere. So you can have the best innovators in the world, but of course, if they are not rewarded, recognized, and made them feel part of a strategy of the company, which really make this a value for it, it's worthless, of course. Then regarding, so the size, definitely, but still, in fact, balanced on the point of view of the commitment of the top management. So as for the top-down and bottom-up approach, this was the first edition of this contest. Of course, the people were sort of shy in submitting their ideas. Let me tell you that these were not ideas, but just innovative projects. So it means that they were well finished and already implemented. So in this case, we're not rewarding ideas, but innovative projects. And this is quite different, and we'll see how. So already implemented projects which can witness some results in terms of money or other indicators that can prove their efficacy, but also innovativeness. So just to finish answering your question, the bottom-up approach was incentivized, let's say, from the top, which seems to be a paradox, but we animated a lot the middle management to push their people to submit these ideas. So it doesn't mean that they have forced anybody, but just motivated them to share this experience. Of course, especially for the levels of progress in the process, and this was something really a bit awkward for us as well, the biggest projects had much more chances to go ahead in the process. And this was a little bit a sort of not very incentivizing experience for the small projects. That's why this year we're trying to balance this experience with a sort of a fourth special prize from the jury, which is going to acknowledge more the small processes, improvements, and so on, which are still a sign of people willing to contribute to the experience of the innovation path in the company, but they would have no chances of going abroad, let's say. So very big projects has in fact more chances to be scaling up to the group level, and this is not the case, of course, for the small projects, I'm afraid. And this is something that we're struggling with, I must say. So we tried, in fact, to convey the ideas or the projects collected regarding this experience along 3 categories of prices. As you can remember, at the beginning of this path, we have mentioned the fact that Axa is building the new positioning on the 3 axes: available, reliable, and attentive. So this Innovation Award is going to collect the subscriptions and submissions along these 3 axes. So, as I mentioned before, we are not collecting ideas for their own sake, but in this case, we are collecting the submissions which are going to participate to one of these 3 categories. So, which project am I submitting that can be proving that Axa is a reliable company, and I would submit this idea. From this year, we introduced a new experience as a category, which is the reuse. So it was very important for all the Axa group to have a 4th category, together with the 3 main axes of the pillars of the new positioning, which is in fact aimed at reinforcing the idea that we don't need to reinvent the wheel, as I mentioned before. So in this category would join all the projects and the team members who have reused another project from last year, for example, and also one participant from the original project. So in this case, all the 2 parts would be incentivized in sharing the knowledge and driving together the results. Okay, so I would like to introduce you to this concept of,
time and effort does it take to promote such an activity? And is it really profitable? Does it make sense? I mean, perhaps there could be other ways. It's just curiosity.
Yeah. So actually, we don't have yet the ROI of these initiatives because we are now driving the 2nd year of this experience. Submissions are currently open in Italy, for example, and throughout the world. So we meant to finish the collection of the submissions at mid of December. So it was last year, it was the 1st year of our experience, and it was really a big effort because it was everything about raising the commitment of the top management, because we as innovators were, let's say, receiving this input from our functional directors at group level. And we had to deal with our top management locally in the entities to make them buy the project and to engage them to be as much on board as they could. So we organized a lot of mini events, and of course it's not such a surprise, but also the kind of stake which is there for the employees, it's sort of important. So last year we had these prizes of the Wii stations and console, and the people were quite happy to receive them. But also what was really motivating for them was the ceremony of recognition for them. Because we have invited all the people who submitted the idea. So this was meant also to put the light on people which is normally not part of the company life. So you would have the always well-known, let's say 10% of the employees who are quite recognized throughout the company. And you would have a lot of people that you have never heard about. And this was a chance for them also to get a sort of light on themselves. So this was itself a very good chances. So when we talk about, for example, the KPIs for measuring the success of this initiative, I'm still not able, let's say, to put some euros beside this initiative. But definitely in terms of motivation, I think that this was a great result. At least I can speak about the Italian experience, because there was such an eagerness. They were very eager to present their projects. So initially, the rules of this contest were set by the group and the region and didn't allow but for a submission form. So nobody would have the chance of presenting anything, but just describing the projects across the variables that the group would have set equally for all the entities. But what we have discovered locally, also with the contribution of the regional department and the commercial managers and so on, was that the employees were really eager to present their efforts. So we have opened up a sort of fame, let's say, day to all of them to introduce what they have done. And I must say that this was the first result that were really accomplished about motivation and people engagement. So I'm really proud about the results of last year. What about this year? We're going through the crisis, but we will talk about this and we'll share some thoughts about the innovation and the crisis, and some reduction in number of employees. So as you can see, the perception and the atmosphere regarding innovation can be affected by the life of the company through this reorganization and cut down of resources. So we'll see if this kind of needed, let's say, interventions will affect heavily the number, the engagement of the people in this experience. So I would like to take you just quickly through the innovation who won this prize. But first of all, let me ask you, what do you think an innovation in insurance can be concerning? So what would you think would win in the innovation award? What kind of projects, or what is innovation for you in insurance? Any ideas? Yep.
It can be in the back office, for example, making the process more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Or it can be more radical, like coverage against new kind of risks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that you have covered properly the two areas, which are the biggest, in fact. So new products, what kind of? What would you submit?
Insurance against the risk of not finishing your studies. And having to pay another year of book course.
I'll take this note. Thank you. Okay, let me just tell you about some of them and then take you through quickly this. For example, they have proposed an insurance to cover. They are very specific regarding, for example, customers and segments. Insurance for women against the theft of their bags. Why? Because in a woman bag there's a life, let's say. So it's much more than typically the value of the money for the bag itself. And this was included in the motor package. So if your car is stolen and you have this policy as a woman, you would have a higher reimbursement because your bag was inside. Or if somebody breaks your window in the car and steals your bag, it would be more valuable for you to have this kind of product because it considers more than the normal, let's say, the fact that it's not, let's say, a common loss of value, but it has a lot of implications also for women in particular. This was just an example. This is the list. I'm afraid it's not very easy to be read, but I don't want you to read it through all of this, of all the projects which were submitted. The three winners, and you will see the three categories, so available, attentive, and reliable. The available project was submitted in the Japanese region, and it was developed a TV shopping channel. So you would have the motor insurance explained, let's say, throughout at least two phases of broadcasting through a TV shopping channel. And this was very powerful in terms of revenues it brought because it was a longer session of explaining all the benefits related to AXA as an insurance company. So having the capability of conveying the value behind the services rather than just the TV spot regarding, for example, the price, which is the normal leverage of comparison for motor insurance. So they exploited this channel to building a higher proximity with the customer, to enter in different segments of customers and markets, and of course to have the chances of conveying the value which through a normal broadcasting advertising wouldn't have passed through, because it's normally just based on the price. Then in the attentive category, there was this experience submitted by AXA Equitable US, My Retirement Shop. So for AXA, especially in US, the market of the pre-retirement, so people aged between 50 and 65, so just before their retirement experience, is a huge market, also because the behavior of these people who tend to try to reorganize completely a different life. So differently probably to what happens in Italy, they tend to plan very carefully what their lives are going to be after retirement. So they plan for their capabilities of keeping the same lifestyle in terms of income available and so on, but also, for example, choosing another place to go and live, which is not so common in Italy, as you can see. So they have built this, let's say, portal where they convene together both the wholesalers and the third parties, the suppliers, and it's a sort of marketplace also for the customers. So if you are a pre-retired people in US, you would find here all the answers you are looking for in terms of how do I prepare to the retirement in terms of money and income, what kind of services could I need in case I become disabled, so how to rebuild and reconstruct my house, where are the centers for fitness, let's say, that can be used by people who becomes older with sort of discounts, advantages, and so on. So a lot of information. So the wholesalers and these third parties pay money to AXA to be sponsors of these sections, and there's a big marketplace also for users that can go there and search and have all the answers that they look for. So this was a very winning experience for US. Then, for example, in France, Guarantee Joker. The target here is we're talking about motor sector, for example. Young drivers aged between 18 and 26 years old, which go out and parties tonight, and they cannot risk for their license to be taken away, for alcohol or whatever, or they're simply tired, so they can exploit with this product 5 times a year a taxi driver bringing them home, and avoiding, of course, their license to be tore away. So as you can see, the kind of innovation is mostly driven by the customers. So we're not putting on the market something which has no marketability. So in the end, remember that an innovation, to be valuable, must find in the market a willingness to pay by the consumer. So if I'm just inventing something which is really weird, but nobody wills to pay for it, it's useless. Okay? So these are the 4 experiences. 3, sorry.
Because
yeah.
One thing, they're sort of different innovation projects, but one thing that is common to these 3 is that the business partners seem to be crucial, in the sense that both in the case of My Retirement and Guarantee Joker, and also slightly less probably in the case of developing the TV channel, you really need to have a big group of partners cooperating with you in the development of this project.
This is true.
This might be one of the most difficult things to pursue whenever you want to
definitely
promote such a...
Well, what I can say is that as a group, we can exploit the services provided by AXA Assistance, which is like a sort of maybe more known Europe Assistance that you may know better than AXA Assistance. And they try to collect all the partners possible to provide extra services not necessarily related to the insurance system. So when you're talking about the car who picks up your car when it's broken, is typically managed by AXA Assistance. So we try to exploit this kind of network, and in fact, I must say that the experience at group level is not that satisfying as it could be, because they could be able to leverage much more their the fact that they are very big and a single buyer for the whole group, and they should be able to provide much better prices and much huger services. In fact, in my personal opinion, as I must say, they should be much more sources of innovation for us as they are normally, because they can really be the front end, the front line in all the experiences and touching points. An example for Italy, AXA Assistance is based in Rome for us, and they have a very close partnership, for example, with San Raffaele Hospital. So they invest a lot of money in research. They are not always on the verge of innovation, I must say. Even in this case, they are working quite good, because they work on telemedicine, for example, and all the features of distance medicine and observation of clinical evolution of the health of the patients. What's a little bit weak in this business model still, in my opinion, is that they still work for third parties. So they are not exclusively working for us, and this is a bit compromising the worth that they can bring to us, the value they can bring. Because sometimes it happened to us as well that while cooperating with them in developing new services and so on, sometimes we feared that our idea was a bit sold to other competitors. This was not a very nice experience. But in fact, having this kind of partnership, in my opinion, is really crucial because they can invest much more money than the normal companies in just research and development. So we can leverage the value and the large basis of the employees, but they can really leverage the R&D department. So it should be, in fact, much more exploiting these resources. Okay, so this as about the 24 projects, these are still just the synthetic information regarding this project. As you can see, I mentioned the reuse. What happened, for example, to the Joker concept? Sorry, a question.
I just had a curiosity question. What happens to the other projects that don't win? Are they used at all or just...
Yeah, this is an example, in fact. This one, but what happened after? So first of all, they made this Book of Innovation, 2009. So they have collected all the 634 concepts in a book. Actually, I have a single copy and not with me, but otherwise I would have given them to you. And they spread it over throughout the whole innovators community, throughout the group. So we have this collection, and we as innovator communities throughout the entities were sort of forced, so driven by the group, to let's say have an internal survey in terms of reusability of all the projects that were submitted at all the levels. So we went around the company and asked, would you be interested in trying to know more about this? So we set up a system of conference call with the project managers of the other entities, with whoever subscribed to know more about this innovation, to get all the information and, for example, the background where this innovation came from. So this means why did I give this answer and which was the initial problem? Because in a lot of situations and times, we'll see it later, it's more easy, in my opinion, to share the ideas and the answer to a problem rather than the solution. Because the solution is affected by local needs, requirements by the regulators and so on. So the application itself is not so replicable. That's why, we'll see it later, we have proposed to have a common databases for ideas as answer to the problems rather than their applications. Because as I mentioned, they are really affected by at least the local requirements and different systems of rules. So the system of conference call, and for the most promising concepts, the group led some qualitative and quantitative surveys. We are using a lot Ipsos as a partner for market research at group level, because it's quite spread over like we are as a company. So thanks to Ipsos, they have tested the Joker concept, remember the taxi one, let's say, throughout 5 different countries. And they are trying to implement this according to the marketability of this concept, which of course has a couple of targets. So the parents, which could be interested in pushing this kind of products, of course, for the safety of their children, and the young drivers as well, of course, for their own safety. So this is a typical reuse of the experience of an innovative project. So trying to spread it over the countries which seems to be more interested and have a higher market value regarding this experience. What about Italy? What did we do? We just arrived the second, I'm afraid. In the reliable category, we submitted the project of Charter of Commitments. Have you heard about this? We made a lot of advertising. Very good. Okay. So our motto was, who is wrong pays, chi sbaglia paga. This is because in the insurance market, it's not very common that an insurer takes up some commitments with their customers. Have you heard about this in Italy at least? I mean, not just by Axa, but I guess by no other insurance company. So we were the first in thinking about this, also because our customers require this to us. So being reliable for us means that you can really rely on the word that on the commitment that I'm taking. How can I demonstrate this? Paying for my faults. And this is quite awkward for an insurance company. So what did we do? We have taken up commitments with the penalties and informed about this service all our customer base, which in Italy is 1.8 million customers. They have received it 1 year ago, let's say, and we have covered a couple of areas which are crucial for our customers. So while asking them what was really important for them in their insurance experience, they told us that it was really important to have a fast settlement in the cycle time of getting back the money when you have a claim. So if you have an insurance, a car accident, you're not fault for it, you would have the money back, and with the Charter of Commitment, we took up the commitment of giving this money back within 21 days from the moment that you open up this claim with the company. Of course, it concerns not a minor, but of course not 100% of the claims. Definitely the claims when you have injured people are not easy to be evaluated, economically speaking, so you wouldn't be able to take a commitment regarding this, at least because you need to wait for the evaluation period of how you recover, so how serious your injuries are. So you cannot take this commitment because it could be not serious as an insurance company. But on the fast and very quick claims to be settled, so it means just two cars that just bumped one into each other, small amount of damages, less than 2,000 euros, let's say, and with the, how can I say, the reciprocal admission of fault, and you sign for this, constatazione amichevole, you would have our commitment of getting this money within 21 days. And if it doesn't happen, you would have 50 euros directly paid to you and 50 euros discount on the renewal of the policy. Yeah.
Just for the sake of information, how long does it take usually to have money back?
Normally it's more than 1 month. So we have reduced, I think that it's not the fact of the 20 days, the important thing, but the fact that I would give you money back if I'm not fulfilling it. So the fact that, I think that, of course, this was an important experience for the customers. It was one of the most weighed in this survey that we carried out. But what lies behind this experience is that this would be a chance for me to prove that I'm reliable. So if I say this to you, I will take this commitment, and just in 1% of cases, I had to pay the penalty. On the other side, on the marketing side, it would have been better for me to have more chances of demonstrating that I would give you also the money, because it would be more chances of demonstrating that I'm really reliable. But of course, 1% of penalties, it's wonderful results. You cannot imagine the effort that it's behind this, because this is not just a commitment in terms of promises. It means that you have to re-engineer completely all the process that you have behind. So new kind of offices set up in the back office to have a fastest track for this kind of claims. So it means a huge impact on the organization of the company to take up this commitment. And this is the kind of innovation which is less replicable by the competitors, of course. So if you just have, let's say, as an innovation, a discount of price in 1% of the tariff, 10% even, the competitor, if he wants to have this fight against you, the war of prices, unless he's comfortable with, because his tariffs and systems allows him to, it would take, 1 month to align their tariff to yours. How much would it take for them to replicate this kind of system? Years, because it takes us 2 years to set up the company in order to fix the system to have just 1% of penalties. And of course, a lot of business simulations behind this, because what happens if I take up a commitment that forces me to pay because I'm not able to take it up and to fulfill it? So you can see just, I mean, this seems just to be light figures, but in fact there's a big reorganization behind.
Could this be perhaps even bigger advantage for Axa itself? The fact that it was forced internally to restructure and to better performance, not only in the front office.
It is definitely, yeah, definitely, because we reduced, for example, this is a very technical aspect of our business, but the longest it takes to you to settle a claim, liquidare un sinistro, the higher the probabilities of being frauded by the people in cases the customers wants, of course, to fraud you. So the quickest you are in settling up this claim, the less money you would tend to pay. So this is a very basic principle for insurance company. The fastest you settle a claim, the better it is for your bottom line, definitely. So we're not just taking up this commitment for the sake of being reliable to the customers, of course, because if it would imply just more money put into the system with no return on it, it would be stupid, of course. What are we trying to do? This is very specific still especially for the Italian market. As you know, we are intermediated by the agents system. So what an initiative taken up by the central headquarter has no 100% of chances of being transmitted as it was thought, let's say, and engineered centrally speaking, because the agents can intermediate it. So they can decide whether to pass this voice over to the customers or not. So you can have a lot of advertising. This is what we did. What we have learned is that without the agents, this was bullshit. And this is what happened last year, unfortunately. So we are fixing the strategy and having the relaunch of this experience just currently, having a lot of workshops with the agents, trying to understand which are the successful cases for them, for those of them who have exploited this for the commercial business. So there are some of them who have picked up the telephone and say, hey customer, do you know that Axa is the only insurer in Italy who has taken up an explicit commitment and is taking up this commitment with you in giving back the money and pays. It's not the case that you have to ask me the penalty. I will give it directly the money because I know that I am in fault. Okay, so some of them have used this, commercially speaking, to promote the company itself. Others have just thrown these letters away. So what we're trying to do, we have 750 agents throughout the territories to try to search for systems who really takes the agents on board in this experience, because it's really making the difference on the market. But without them, it's not such a big difference. So as you can see, the complexity is huge. And we had a similar experience in life and saving, because the regulator obliges us to give back the money when you want to draw back the money from a product, so disinvest them, within 30 days from the moment you want the money back. We have taken up the commitment of reducing down to 15 days this period, and still here 3% of penalties paid. Okay. So this is what regards the employees and culture experience. Any other questions about this, or can we go through the second point? I hope we're not too late. I will try to go a little bit faster. Can I go ahead? Okay. Are you bored? Okay. Just in case we take a coffee out. Okay. Second principle. So we have mentioned processes, governance, tools, and KPIs. Still the example of Hewlett Packard, I will take you through the process. So they have set up the Innovation Program Office. They have these champions for ideas. Very important principle, giving feedback to your employees. So never allow an idea to be submitted and the employee says, what about my idea? No, that cannot be existing, really, because it's a boomerang for you. They set up some criteria for the evaluation of ideas. They set up a process for the validation. So, as I mentioned before, 4 gates of controlling the ideas through the time. Focus on the bottom line, which means money, basically. And also, this is very interesting to me, a sort of advocate of the customer experience. So what is the impact of the idea, of the innovation on the side of the customer. So I can be improving as much as I can my processes, for example. And what about the impact of the customer? What would he receive? How would it benefit from this invention or innovation? Would it be a positive impact or a negative one? So I really like it very much, this introduction of this person being the sponsor of the customer experience, because it's really important and makes the value for this innovation. So then we will take a look at in Axa France and the matter of KPIs. These are the 5 key questions that Hewlett-Packard is trying to use as a filtering methodology, still a qualitative level for most of them. And you should go through the 5 of them to decide whether this idea could go further or not. So, number 1, does it change fundamentally the customer expectation or experience, or the competitive landscape, at least in one of the segments that I'm tackling as a company on the market? Does this fundamentally change the economics of the industry? I don't want to create a Me Too project. And this is the financial part. Should I contribute? And is it going to put some margins behind my activity? Okay. This was just an example of a filtering methodology regarding this ideas submission. Axa is a tool that was set up in France, which has a principle of a workflow. Does anybody of you know about systems of collecting ideas? Never experienced them? Never tried to submit any ideas to any website? Who does share this experience with sort of co-creation? Wikipedia? You know about this? Yeah. Okay. So this has a sort of emulation on a different platform, but like that. So Axa is a platform which facilitates the expression and the submission of ideas for the employees, and it was adopted in Axa France. Employees can submit spontaneous ideas or triggered ideas. So this means that Axa has the chances either to submit a contest, for example, a subject, or to ask for free ideas submitted by the customer, by the employees. And these are both important for our experience locally. They have, I'm trying to go quite speed about this, they have a structure of people behind this, because as we mentioned before, without people you go nowhere. So you don't just need a workflow to pass the ideas over, but you also need people to stimulate this. They set up a kind of 2 networks, 20 Axa correspondents and 260 innovators. The correspondents of Axa are people who are able, of course, to manage the platform, but also are well trained about innovation processes and systems of gathering new ideas and stimulating them. You may have heard about the brainstorming techniques, which are quite spread over, not very well done in the most of cases, because you need specific techniques and abilities to animate this kind of situations. But Axa correspondents and innovators in France received specific training to animate brainstorming sessions with different techniques in terms of addressing the problems, for example, in the head, having the head of the customers, of the employees, of the distributors, and so on. This is a specific session. Maybe we can have a second one. Okay. So it's based on a platform 2.0. You know about 2.0 technologies, of course. Why are you laughing?
We had an exhaustive project last year.
Really? What was it about?
Oh, whatever. We could just propose a project on Web 2.0 activity, business.
And what did you propose? Did you have different projects,
yeah,
or?
we had different projects.
Mm-hmm. How many of yours? Who wants to share one? Yeah?
We have developed a website that connects tennis players and tennis court owners in order to have a booking system, but also to connect people willing to play at a certain time of the day or in certain areas of the city that may not know anybody else to play with. This is the idea.
Did you have also the chances of building a sort of business case around this?
We had to build a business plan actually.
Did it make money? Was it profitable? Yeah.
We had to present it to venture capitalists, which were pretty amazed with our work. And we have a Nokia challenge on, which is why I was complaining this morning.
Why? Because you didn't win the telephone.
No, the prize is still on, but the thing is that we are a dispersed team, and my teammates, they all have different timing zones, so nobody can speak to the Nokia guys, and I have to deal with it. This is why I was upset.
You will have a chat with them. Very good. Other projects? I'm curious about this.
We developed a website that is sort of a brokerage website in which you put in contact the owners of university textbooks and the people that want to rent these kind of books. And basically it works for just one city, for example Milan, because then there is the issue of transportation, so it costs more to get to the city and take the book than rent the book. And making money, we make money like after 2-3 years, but not so much money. We need a very huge customer base and network effects to make money.
Very good. So who would really invest in the project that submitted? Which was about?
It was defined the latest project of all,
Sorry?
It was defined by some professor the latest projects of all, but it was like brokerage between fashion institutions like schools and universities and people who were, let's say, self-made entrepreneurs in the fashion business. So people who had ideas, who wanted to share them, to build on their ideas, but they had not basic knowledge. So we would make them encounter, give consulting, and eventually take the feedback of the community, build around it, to evaluate the projects. And money would come from a small percentage on the future businesses, so we would give a lot of trust to people. And of course, then if the community would come out...
Trust costs.
Yeah,
What?
trust costs lots, but without trust, you don't go anywhere. So
Yeah.
that was it.
Okay. Did you have fun? Okay. Shall we move on? So, as you can see, Axa, despite being just a sad insurance word, is still exploiting technologies 2.0. And actually, we had a very peculiar mission this year to try to understand which can be the further development of 2.0 in insurance field. And of course, it concerns also talent recruitment throughout sites like LinkedIn and networks like that. And of course, a lot of intelligence in the PR activities that are, so the voices that are spread over the web regarding people who submit their experiences and their ideas regarding the level of prices, the level of services that companies are providing. So it's becoming a huge worth also for us. So even if you wouldn't tend to associate the image of the insurance company to a Web 2.0 reality, we're still exploiting it. Okay. So as you can see, we could have, I would say, the pyramid of the typical kind of innovation. So local ideas, as we mentioned before, transversal ideas and strategic ideas. And they would have different levels of committees to approve them. Okay. And two different processes, because the employees could send the ideas to the innovator and, of course, for information also to the managers. And the innovator would be the sort of business angels building around the ideas, talking with other innovators or managers to make it more sound and, of course, profitable to the company, and then directly to the implementation. Of course, it's a huger process, but still behind a workflow and a technology. Pay attention to this. We need this. And we need to have a sort of precise ruling about the process, who owns the key steps for it. So we need observators and people who pushes the ideas along the channel. And a more complex system, of course, to approve transversal or strategic ideas with other correspondents and the executive committee to approve this flow of ideas. What's basic behind this? The identification of a channel. As I mentioned before, it could be coming from the strategic department, from AXA Group, the strategic department of at entity levels. The formalization of the challenge is important as well. So what is a real principle of cooperation and thinking among people is that the challenge should be asked in terms of how can we? This is really basic. As long as you take any courses about innovation, every kind of challenge must be addressed like how can we? So there's no other way to produce a very positive thinking other than how can we, okay? This is a very basic rule, but really effective. The launch of a challenge. We said before that we had to spread over a lot of activities to have a very wide commitments around the companies. So this would be the same case when you try to set a challenge around the company. And very important as well is that the challenge should be kept as short as possible. So you wouldn't keep the challenge open for 1 year because it doesn't go along well together with innovative thinking. So it's a 5 to 7 week because otherwise people don't feel the pressure of putting the ideas properly and be part of a contest as well. So this is quite basic as well. And also the brainstorming techniques, so helping people to put together the ideas in a proper way. Okay, let us go ahead. The results about this, 16,000 employees participated to this, 260 innovators trained, 20 challenges launched, 1,000 ideas submitted in 9 months. These are some snapshots about the internet system allowing the submission of the idea. You can both submit an idea or a best practice. You can write your comment and vote the ideas you prefer. And you can select the ideas with in a sort of a basket of your preferred ideas. You can make the report of the status of the progression of the ideas as well. And the figures. This is quite important to me. In every kind of sound process, you need to measure. This is really basic. Because these kind of tools really allow to understand how the pipeline works and the workflow of the ideas. So you would see that they have raised 2,000 ideas, and you will see how it was during the time, but also at which stage they are stopped, let's say. I've tried to search for some literature regarding this because there's a principle behind the fact that the more ideas you have, the better it is, of course. And this can be lapalissiano, but there are some studies showing that 70% of new products are going to fail. So if this percentage is going to be based on a small number, of course 70% is 2 out of 3 more. And so the more ideas you have, the better it is. Of course, you have to manage it. So what can happen along a pipeline and in a company who decides to manage the ideas? I have searched for some literature about this. I have found them in HBR. So Harvard Business Review article in 2007, the innovation value chain. I think that this is very important and interesting because you would have 3 steps: idea generation, conversion of the ideas, and their diffusion. And to all of them is associated what should be typically happening and how to measure them. So you will have this slide as well. But what is really important to me is that if you set up a proper KPI for each of these steps, it will help you building a proper diagnosis of where you fail as a company. So it means that probably you could have a lot of ideas produced by your unit, but you don't cross-fertilize with other departments. And innovation typically doesn't stand in a single department. The better ideas are the ones coming from people belonging to different departments of the company. And then, of course, coming also with collaboration with other parties. As Nicoletta mentioned before, Axa stands for us as a valuable partner. But if the KPIs and the pipeline stops somewhere, it means that there you have the problem and the issue, and you have to address it properly. So when you tackle the matter of idea generation along the pipeline until the diffusion, because you would have the product launched either here or here. So here it goes on the market. But the diffusion as well throughout the company, and especially in big multinational companies, is as fundamental as just the creation and the launch of the product. Here, there's also the concept of time to market. So, okay, it can be innovative, but it has to do also with time to market. So I have this constraint as well. So innovation, it's not just lay down on the beach and wait for a nice thing to come to my mind. Because it's also a matter of coming before the competitors, of course. So it means that you have also to at least be aware and measure how long it takes to you to pass throughout all the stages, and to try to understand whether it's the case to speed up and which is the counterbalancing about speeding up. Because as you can see, and as I mentioned before, the experience of Axa 1 was in Axa one of the ways that we try to adopt to shorten up and reduce the time to market. Of course, the idea itself was good, but we didn't accomplish the timeliness because we lost a number of things on the way. Okay, so I think that this could be valuable for you as well, should you ever have the chances of implementing an innovation strategy in the company. So addressing the KPIs. Remember, but this is really, really important in my opinion. And let us get to the third point here. So getting the right ideas. So what is the right idea? Of course, the one that makes money, but also the one that tackles the customer needs. And I read just in these days an interesting article regarding innovation and the crisis. What do you think happens normally to innovations funding during the crisis? Falls down? Dead. Goes up? Dead. Yeah. Almost dead. Well, this is what's happening in Axa Group, unfortunately. And I'm crying on this because this article showed as well that during these crisis periods, people who are quite clever and smart, companies as well, should keep on investing money, because this would give a sort of 3-time advantage after the crisis is over. So investing in innovation is still important. Why? Especially if you tackle innovation that are useful for the customer. So if your innovation is answering a need of a customer, it has no implication with the crisis. So if you discover something and put on the market something for the customer acknowledges that it's something that he needs and answers to his needs, no crisis impacts, because the studies really demonstrated that the level of buying it's not affected by the crisis, economic downturns and so on, but just by the fact that the product can either be responding to their needs or completely not. So these are just the two factors behind this. So willingness to pay means that the idea should be really answering the customer needs. Some examples here as well. And, okay, we'll just take 10 minutes more. Procter and Gamble and Nike ID are websites where they search for co-creation and submissions of ideas by the consumers. You nod. Have you seen them?
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you seen?
Nike ID.
What could you do?
It's a website where you can create your own shoes.
Uh-huh.
Decide the color of every feature. Every kind of feature.
This is really transposing the cost of innovation to the customer. So the customer becomes your employees like that. So this is a smart action, no? Procter and Gamble as well. They have opened up this site for co-creation, and they even search for solutions to some problems. So how can I make this pastry less sweet? And you would have a lot of sweet makers posting their solutions, for example. So this means asking for the help of the very expert people in the creation, both in the fact that they want to know if there's any willingness to pay by the customer, or directly leaving the customer building their own product like Nike ID did, or trying to answer some questions that it would probably cost too much to you to pay, to invest in understanding how to solve this kind of issues. The experience of Mercedes and Coca-Cola, in my opinion, is very relevant as well. And really talks about the fact that, for example, market surveys, I guess many of viewers have had some studies about market researches. Did you? Some. Okay. So there are a lot of techniques for investigating the customer needs, focus groups, questionnaires, and so on. I don't want to say that they are bullshit, of course, because we need them also to prove, quantitatively speaking, some needs and some realities. But observation of the customer is much more valuable than asking the customer. The example of Coca-Cola, for me, is really astonishing, because when they try to reformulate the original formula to sell more, they studied in the lab that probably they could have added some more sugar to the original formula. So they have changed all the plants in US and claimed that this new formula was on the market. What has happened then? That it was a complete failure. Some of yours may have heard about this market case study. And among the reasons about this, it was also a matter of positioning, advertising, and so on. But there was also a matter of testing this experience. Because what did they do? They tested with blind test the experience of the consumers sipping Coke. So having a single sip and saying which formula is better for you, knowing not whether it was Pepsi, the original formula of Coca-Cola, or the new one. And what did they discover? That the experience that they have tested wasn't the right one. Why? Because if you just take a single sip, you wouldn't keep the flavor as long as you normally keep it when you're just taking the normal consumptions of Coca-Cola, which is on the couch with your remote control in your hand, and in the other hand sipping from time to time the Coke. And this, if you make it sweeter, it would be really much sweeter, because it's not just a single sip. So the experience that you test is much more relevant than a single answer. So observing the customer experience is much more relevant than asking them one shot, what do you want, what do you prefer? First of all, because in many cases they don't know. Second of all, because the experience makes the difference. So observe them just rather than ask them. So this was really crucial for us. Axa tried to do a sort of similar thing also because many of the employees in Axa don't have the experience, direct experience with the consumers. And they have designed a couple of years ago in Axa UK the ICE, Intensive Customer Experience. So they had a big room like this and they simulated a sort of big fire happening in a city with sort of 20 people taken from the employees and actors, professional actors, going to me, which was a claim settler or an agent, and just simulating the real situation. So it means that, for example, there was a client saying, my car was damaged, it was completely burnt in this fire, or my dad is dead, in fact. And how can I do to have this money back? And of course, there were a lot of psychological implications about this, because when you just design a product, you don't feel this, that the fact that the agent and the claim settler will have to manage the experience directly with the customers. So it has some implications that the technical features are not addressing. And the more you can really walk in the shoes of the customer, the better your product will work, the better your process will work with the customer. So, ICE. Then we mentioned the strategic guidelines, the experience. We started with Winterthur that we have acquired a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, possibly throughout all Europe, but especially they are a very big company in Spain and in Switzerland. And in their study center in Switzerland, they used to produce every year the trend book, analyzing and taking into account a lot of trends. So the more you can anticipate, not just insurance-related topics, but all the themes related to the society and the economic trends, economy, demography, so the fact that the people are getting older, which are the implications, how can we get some insights and exploit them on the insurance point of view and services. society, lifestyle values. For example, an interesting study here was related to the evolution of the concept of health and how our products should be evolving as well. So we started off as an insurance sector producing health coverage schemes which were just paying back to the cost of the surgical interventions. But nowadays, in the consumer minds, what is more frequent is that health is more a concept of well-being rather than just illness or surgical interventions. So this tends to include also the experience of, for example, preventions and some other kind of cares that can be given to the patients, which are not critical ones. So if you don't observe these trends, you would tend to have the same products not answering to the new styles coming up and new needs of the people. Axa France set up last April 2009 a website for the co-creation, which is the Axa Ma Santé. And they have, first of all, stimulated the knowledge about some topics in health and then raised the opinion of the consumers. How would your product in health would like to work like? So covering, for example, the prevention activities, covering the medicina alternativa, and so on. And they raised the opinion of all the consumers. So this means going closer to the consumers. And in UK, still the Web 2.0 technology, Axa Our Space, they set up this platform, quite similar to Innovaxa, but with the difference that they can vote, comment, it's much more user-friendly as a platform. You can post ideas, you can have the forums, so discussing about the ideas. What is really valuable here is that the managers here can put not only the challenges, but also the needed knowledge to stimulate properly the challenges. So it's also a tutorial tool, not just a raising ideas tool. Okay. Last, and then I have finished to bore you, it's a quick one. So how to turn ideas into concept. A single word, flexibility. This is because in a lot of time what is really happening in the company is that you never allow flexibility in your plans. What is really typical, for example, in Axa, but I think that it's something really happening throughout the whole world of the companies, is that your IT plans, for example, if you put together all the activities that you plan, it's 150%. Your plan of investing resources, investments, human investments, so people used in the projects, more than 100. So how can you really capture the time to market in launching an innovation if you don't have the flexibility to do it? So Google, for example, not in the planning, but in their normal activities of their employees, they allow people to take one day off out of 1 week, they say. I don't believe it so often, but... And in their spare time, they allow them to be as creative as they can in their private life. And a lot of ideas were coming from this kind of days off. But what is really more crucial for us, and this is what we proposed a couple of months ago to the top management in Axa, is to never allow sourcing of planning, IT and product plans to be beyond 90% of resources. This is because if you capture a good innovation, you wouldn't have the chance of exploiting it before the competitors. So it's worthless to invest in innovation if you don't have any willingness to be really fast on launching on the market. So flexibility is really, really basic for me. Okay. Any observation regarding this?
How do you calculate this 10%? I mean, it's kind of intangible activity at the end.
Well, we have a product plan in IT budget, which is made by man days. And you shouldn't be accepting the number of man days more than 90% of the normal capacity, sorry. And also a number of man days for the product development, for example. So if you plan a number of activities which are going beyond the 90% of your capacity, you are not allowing really to exploit especially the disruptive innovation to be put on the market. because of course they will be affected by the impossibility and the sort of waiting list to be launched on the market. Of course, a company has to deal with this compromise because the number of priorities is very huge and always changing. So what is really typical and not academic is that this is a very huge challenge for companies. But in fact, especially because it's a huge challenge, it has behind a very big promise to be successful, in my opinion. So the top management of Axa, when we proposed this, they were really scared because we had this kind of study regarding how to optimize the time to market in product launches. There were 3 main quick wins that we suggested. One, as I mentioned, the creation of a platform to share ideas. So as I mentioned before, we have already in Axa some platforms, both at local level and at group level, to share the products launched. But as I mentioned before, the complexity at different levels in the entities are too wide and too different to make it really happen, the reuse. So sharing ideas rather than products. Second point is a better post-launch analysis of the products, because you tend to launch a number of products. We increased by 100% in the last year the number of products we launched. And I don't believe that all of them were really needed, because if you do a proper post-launch observation of the products, you can avoid investing in new researches, because you just need a small optimization sometimes. So a proper management of the post-launching products can ensure a better exploitation of resources. And the third point was this, flexibility in setting up the priorities and the scheduling of the plans. Okay, I hope I wasn't too boring for you. And if this is the case, you will let me know for the next time. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very interesting, I think, also in relation to the more academic type
Yeah,
of
probably.
knowledge that we're used to. So thank you again for coming. You have some...
Yeah, since I didn't want to steal too much time to the institutional presentation, if you want, you can take some of these small brochures containing the data and figures regarding our group. Thank you. And if you have questions, of course, your teacher has my direct email, so even if in case you want to raise some other reflections and share, or taking together some challenges you're facing, I'm of course available to you.
È macchina che la fa.